Hello, guys. Welcome to yet another episode of Paddle Sweep. This week, we are in a position to discuss IPL points table because the eliminators and the qualifiers are very near. Uh, it has been 6 weeks since IPL has started, and we are in a position where we can't for sure say which team is going to qualify. All the teams are somewhat uh, separated by 2 or 4 points at best, and except for DC, I don't think any team has made it out of the playoff race. Yes, and except for GT, we can't possibly say which team is going to qualify. So the top four is rather dicey at the moment, and I have to say, Swapnil, this season the table and especially the middle portion of the points table looks rather congested. What do you think? Which are the obvious teams that are eliminated, and which teams do you think will qualify for sure?
I think if you look at the table, right, I think this is one of those seasons wherein only 2 weeks are remaining, and we still are unsure of which teams are actually going to qualify at which spot. So, in the earlier season, at least we have had like good amount of idea as to these teams will be one or two, or these teams will be not fighting for the playoffs. But as as far as I can see over here, nine teams are still in contention
Yeah.
for a for a place in top four, and we just have like about 2 weeks of IPL remaining. So it has been a very crazy season, I'd say. But yeah, I think to answer your question, Gujarat Titans are more or less done. I think they are one of the most
Hmm.
complete teams in the tournament. They play as a team, and I think they have a very strong NRR. So I think even if they lose their remaining two games, right,
Hmm.
I reckon they make the playoffs. Even at 16, with the positive net run rate of zero point 0.7 right now, I do think
Yeah.
that will remain positive even if they lose the two games, and I feel that should be enough for a team to qualify onto the next stage over here. But
Hmm.
as much as I know how the GT team functions, I believe they'll push for that one and two spot, because playing that
Definitely.
qualifier one and the final at Ahmedabad in their home ground, I feel that is a very big plus for them. And I do believe that they will be one of those teams in the top two over here.
Hmm.
On the
What
contrary, I
about the
feel,
teams? Yeah.
yeah,
Let's
on the
talk
con
about DC.
yeah, I think they have had a season to forget. I think they're mathematically out. I can see 4 teams above 12 over here.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
a lot of things have not clicked for them. That top four have been all foreigners, which is not a good sign for any team. With Rosu, Marsh, and the two openers in Philippe Salt and
Hmm.
David Warner. So I think they have messed up with their combinations. That their some of their key players were missing. Some who were there have not really played to a
Yeah.
level that was expected out of them. But I believe even though they are out, they can actually play a very important part this season. I think which we'll turn into in the later part of the episode today. So coming on to the remaining three playoff berths, like if we see GT making it into it, we see there are 8 teams for it now. As far as I can see, we can bucket them into two teams having their fate in their own hands. What do you see
Hmm.
happening for like position two and three and four?
So, except for GT, I would say from number two to nine, we have 8 teams that have a chance of qualifying this season. You have CSK and MI, and especially MI, I have to say, who are in rather strong positions. Then you have LSG, who have an extra point because of that no result game. But then again, you have RCB and Punjab who still have 2 games left, and if they win, they reach 16 points, which could easily help them qualify. But then again, there are teams like KKR and RR, and even SRH for that matter, who, even though their qualification is still dependent on the performances of other teams, you have to still say they do stand a chance. So we have teams of two categories here. Ones that are only dependent on themselves for qualifying, that is, if they win their remaining two, they will make it. And then we have teams that will not make it on their own. They need support from other teams. They need the better teams to lose their matches. So let's first have a look at these teams from 2 to 5 and Punjab, which are in a great place to qualify on their own. CSK have one match left, that too against DC. If they win, they reach 17, and I don't think there is any stopping. There is any team that can stop them from qualifying if they reach 17, because most of the other teams except for LSG can only reach 16. So CSK and LSG can both reach uh, 17 at this point, and MI can actually reach 18.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of understand that even though MI is placed at number 3, they are in a better position than CSK in terms of their chances of qualifying for number 2. If MI wins their remaining 2 fixtures, they definitely make it to the top 2. There is just no doubt about that. Whereas even if CSK wins their next game, they still have to are dependent on MI to make sure they qualify in the top 2. Same goes for LSG. LSG has played one match less and one less game. So even if LSG wins their next 2, they are also in contention for the top 2, and their net run rate is not so far behind CSK. And one of the most interesting things here is that tomorrow we have a LSG versus MI match, which just makes it all the more interesting. So if LSG lose this match, they would find themselves in a rather weaker spot for contention for playoffs. And if MI win the next one, they would definitely qualify, because I mean, it will all come down to net run rate at some point, but they'll still have one more game to make up for that. So these 3 teams, even they are placed better than the remaining 2 teams that we are going to talk about, who still can make it, but still they are in a better position than the remaining few teams. The other 2 teams that I would talk about are RCB and Punjab. They both have 2 matches left. If they win, they reach 16 points, and if which could get interesting, because that also tells us that this is a season where even if you score 16 points, you still might not qualify.
Correct.
In fact, we have a scenario building where all 4 of the teams might be on 16 points. If Mumbai wins their next against LSG and LSG also lose their other game, which means they remain on 13. If CSK lose their game against DC, they remain on 15. There is a chance that number 2, 3, 4 could all be 16 points, because there are no in between matches remaining in these teams except LSG Mumbai and one other game, which uh, doesn't involve Punjab or RCB in that.
Correct.
So this is a very tricky situation, and then you have teams like KKR and SRH and RR, which are kind of hoping that things don't go the way for these things. So do you want to take those things up and guide us through what qualification scenarios these teams have?
I believe, like as you mentioned, right, KKR, RR, and SRH have an outside chance. So maximum they can reach is 14, right? And out of the 3 teams, I believe RR has the best chance amongst the 3 because of that positive net run rate. So to be honest, I do feel these teams are more or less out. A lot has to happen for any of the 3 to qualify, because even last season, right, like during the earlier seasons, we did see 14 as a qualifying number on good net run rate, but last season it was 16, and as you mentioned, right, this season 16 might not be enough. So I really don't think 14 is taking a team through this season. But I do feel that if any of these teams go through to the playoffs, they might go through to the final or even all the way, because I think that's a very mental boost kind of things which happens with these teams. I believe KKR was in a spot like this. I think 2 seasons
2
back.
years back, I think. Yeah.
They just made it to the top 4, and then all of a sudden they're like, the confidence in them during that second leg in UAE was immense. That confidence into the playoffs, and they just like destroyed teams in the eliminator and the qualifier to reach the final. They couldn't win the trophy. That's a different thing. But I just feel that mental boost might drive them through if they reach into the top 4. But as I said, like that does not seem likely over here. I still think that the teams which have their fate on their own hands, the ones that you mentioned, CSK, MI, LSG, RCB, and Punjab, are the ones that would be filling in that number 2, 3, and 4 spots. I think moving on to the matchups remaining, right? I believe you covered LSG versus MI. There's one more matchup. Do you want to cover it for us, like CSK versus DC? How important is that?
CSK versus DC, I think in a way, it's very important because if CSK lose this match and remain on 15 points, it then places. I mean, you have there are two spots opening up if that happens
Correct.
because both RCB and Punjab can independently reach 16 points. They don't have a match in between them. So if they win both of their fixtures, then CSK might actually struggle to even qualify. Place at
Yes.
number two at this point
Yeah.
doesn't really mean anything then. You have 15 for CSK. I think same goes for Lucknow. Lucknow win their last two, they remain on 13. Mumbai win their next two, they move to 18. So and who knows if Gujarat actually end up losing the other two, Mumbai might just qualify at number one.
Yeah.
At the very start of the season, we had everyone was bashing MI on how they are not the same side anymore without their number 5, 6, 7. How Rohit is not scoring runs, how they are missing Bumrah, and now suddenly there is a scenario which is a very likely scenario in my
Yeah.
opinion that they might just qualify at number one. So this is a very messed up points table in my opinion, and a lot of teams would hope for miracles at this point. What do you think? What's your prediction for this year? What are your top two?
Okay, I think just to touch upon though that point of MI, I believe
Hmm.
confidence is a big thing in this part of the tournament, and like MI is on a very good run at the moment, and I wouldn't be surprised if
Hmm.
GT and MI finish top two over here. So
Yeah.
coming to your question, I think GT and CSK go 1 and 2. MI lose one of their
Hmm.
games, but I feel MI lose. MI will lose both of their games. It's more of a fan in me talking over here, and not. I
Actually,
really want. I really want.
are you still hoping for KKR to somehow make it?
I actually that would have been a very far-fetched shot. I really want LSG versus RCB
Hmm.
again this season, and just
Hmm.
because of the entertainment of the pitch it provides for us fans, I really want a decider between the
Yeah.
two teams. LSG has won one, RCB has won one, and I
Hmm.
really want like that eliminator at Chennai to be LSG versus RCB.
To be a
But
real.
I do feel that whosoever is that third and fourth team, I do feel that
Hmm.
whichever team qualifies 1 and 2, in my according to me, that would be GT and CSK. So we'll have a GT versus
Hmm.
CSK final at the Ahmedabad Stadium, and I think CSK might edge it for Dhoni. So
Hmm.
Dhoni's last
Honestly,
season.
in my opinion, I would say I am sensing a setback of sorts because the
Yeah,
last night when CSK lost to KKR were very good. They had the perfect chase even after losing those 3 wickets. The way Rinku and Nitish, and even you have to sort of commend how well they took it, how well they soaked the pressure and kept on getting those boundaries. So I am kind of, and DC would want blood now. I am kind of seeing CSK losing the next match and then maybe even struggling for a place here. And so, in my opinion, GT and MI qualify 1 and 2, and LSG and one out of RCB and Punjab making it.
so that's our predictions, guys. Let us know what your predictions are, and hoping for like a very good end to this amazing IPL season that we have today.
Yeah.